Hello and good morning. My name is Jessica Watson and I'm with Earth Day 365 and we are putting on the virtual Earth Day Festival this week.
My fake name is... No.
I can't even remember now. Your real name is Atticus. I have some helpers with me this morning. Atticus and Maddox.
My funny superhero name is Agent Guinea Pig.
Right. And we are almost at the end of the virtual Earth Day Festival here in St. Louis this week. It's been a fantastic week. We are in the penultimate day, so tomorrow is the last day. And you can go back and view any of the presentations that have happened through links on our virtual homepage. And so today we are reading a book called Planting the Trees of Kenya, the story of Wangari Maathai. And that's by Claire A. Nivola.
I get to see them.
Yeah, you're gonna be able to see the pictures. So I chose this book because I think that Wangari Maathai is an amazing person, and she is a green hero for sure. And also because yesterday was Arbor Day, so this is a book that centers trees as a great environmental solution. So let us get started. So, as Wangari Maathai tells it, when she was growing up on a farm in the hills of central Kenya, the earth was clothed in the dress of green. Fig trees, olive trees, crotons, and flame trees covered the land, and fish filled the pure waters of the streams. The fig tree was sacred then, and Wangari knew not to disturb it, not even to carry its fallen branches home for firewood. In the stream near her homestead, where she went to collect water for her mother, she played with glistening frogs' eggs, trying to gather them like beads into necklaces, though they slipped through her fingers back into the clear water. See the fig tree? You want to sit in the windowsill? Her heart was filled with the beauty of her native, oh my gosh, Atticus. Can everybody still see me? Atticus, please. Atticus is sitting on the mouse, excuse me. Let's make sure that everybody can still see. There we go. Okay. Her heart was filled with the beauty of her native Kenya when she left to attend a college run by Benedictine nuns in America, far, far from her home. There she studied biology, the science of living things. It was an inspiring time for Wangari. The students in America in those years dreamed of making the world better. The nuns, too, taught Wangari to think not just of herself, but of the world beyond herself. How eagerly she returned to Kenya, how full of hope and of all the things that she had learned. She had been away for 5 years. Only 5 years, but they might have been 20. So changed was the landscape of Kenya. Wangari found the fig tree cut down, the little stream dried up, and no trace of frogs, tadpoles, or the silvery beads of eggs. Where once there had been little farms growing what each family needed to live on, and large plantations growing tea for export, now almost all the farms were growing crops to sell. Wangari noticed that the people no longer grew what they ate, but bought food from stores. The store food was expensive, and the little they could afford was not as good for them as what they had grown themselves, so that children, even grown-ups, were weaker and often sickly. She saw that where once there had been richly wooded hills with grazing cows and goats, now the land was almost treeless, the woods gone. So many trees had been cut down to clear the way for more farms that women and children had to walk farther and farther in search of firewood to heat a pot or warm the house. Sometimes they walked for hours before they found a tree or bush to cut down. There were fewer and fewer trees with each one they cut, and much of the land was as bare as a desert. Whoa.
really try to.
There we go. I know. Without trees, there were no roots to hold the soil in place. Without trees, there was no shade. The rich topsoil dried to dust, and the devil wind blew it away. Rain washed the loose earth into the once clear streams and rivers, dirtying them with silt.
Dirtying what with silt?
Dirtying the streams, making them muddy with silt. Silt is when dirt gets in water. It's little pieces of dirt that are in the water. We have no clean drinking water, the women of the countryside complained. No firewood to cook with. Our goats and cows have nothing to graze on, so they make little milk. Our children are hungry, and we are poorer than before. Wangari saw that the people who had once honored fig trees and now cut them down had forgotten to care for the land that fed them. Now the land, weak and suffering, could no longer take care of the people, and their lives became harder than ever. The women blamed others. They blamed the government. But Wangari was not one to complain. She wanted to do something. Think of what we ourselves are doing, she urged the women. We are cutting down the trees of Kenya. When we see that we are part of the problem, she said, we can become part of the solution. There she is. That's her in the purple. She had a simple and a big idea. Why not plant trees? She asked the women. She showed them how to collect tree seeds from the trees that remained. She taught them to prepare the soil, mixing it with manure. She showed them how to wet that soil, press a hole in it with a stick, and carefully insert a seed. Most of all, she taught them to tend the growing seedlings, as if they were babies, watering them twice a day to make sure they grew strong. Can you see? It wasn't easy. Water was always hard to come by. Often the women had to dig a deep hole by hand and climb into it to haul heavy bucketfuls of water up over their heads and back out of the hole. An early nursery in Wangari's backyard failed. Almost all of the seedlings died, but Wangari was not one to give up, and she showed others how not to give up.
Where's Wangari?
Let's see where she is. I think this is her. I'm not sure. Many of the women could not read or write. They were mothers and farmers, and no one took them seriously. But they did not need schooling to plant trees. They did not have to wait for the government to help them. They could begin to change their own lives. How cool, they started their own nursery, Addie. All this was heavy work, but the women felt proud. Slowly, all around them, they could begin to see the fruit of their work, the work of their hands. The woods were growing up again. Now, when they cut down a tree, they planted two in its place. Their families were healthier, eating from the fruit trees they had planted, and from the vegetable plots filled again with the yams, cassava, pigeon peas, and sorghum that grew so well. They had work to do, and the work brought them together as one, like the trees growing together on the newly wooded hills. The men saw what their wives, mothers, and daughters were doing and admired them and even joined in. These are beautiful pictures.
Yes, they are.
Wangari gave seedlings to the schools and taught the children how to make their own nurseries. She gave seedlings to inmates of prisons and even to soldiers. You hold your gun, she told the soldiers, but what are you protecting? The whole country is disappearing with the wind and water. You should hold the gun in your right hand and a tree seedling in your left. That's when you become a good soldier. She's teaching everyone about how important this was. Have you guys ever planted a tree? With Daddy? No? We've got some to plant now. And so in the 30 years since Wangari began her movement, tree by tree, person by person, 30 million trees have been planted in Kenya. And the planting has not stopped. She founded the Green Belt movement.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of people and a lot of trees. When the soil is exposed, Wangari tells us, it is crying out for help. It is naked and needs to be clothed in its dress. That is the nature of the land. It needs color. It needs its cloth of green.
And white and blue.
30 million. Can you imagine? The end. And Wangari Maathai.
And it was called Atticus.
So Wangari Maathai won the Nobel Peace Prize for her work with the Green Belt movement in Kenya. So an amazing person. And thanks for tuning in today to Green Storytime. And I'll see you tomorrow for our last Green Storytime, reading the Lorax. Okay, enjoy the virtual festival today.